blessed through the rebirth of the Spirit. Jesus says, "Blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear." What do you think this text means? You'll immediately say, "We don't know." For if you would say, "We know," you would obviously lie. For you must consider the text first in its outward, literal meaning. If you find the text in its general understanding to be very wise, you are still far off the truth and the light which is hidden within this text. But if you think that this text is nonsense for the general mind, you are much closer to the truth and the light of this text. There may be some jokers saying here, "I agree with that," and whoever realizes that the entire Bible is nonsense, this one is already the truth and the light himself. But I do not mean it in this worldly joking sense when I say, you first have to think of this text being nonsense with your worldly mind if you want to get closer to its light. Why do I say such a thing? Because this text has a pure heavenly meaning which goes completely against all worldly understanding. But how is this text nonsense according to all the worldly understanding? Listen, for I will tell you. You know that only the heart or the love is capable of a blissful feeling or any beatitude. And for this reason, because only the love or the spirit within man is living. Therefore, they are the only ones capable of any sensation. That is why blissfulness is not suitable for the eyes or the ears, because the eyes and the ears are only sense organs, which must serve the spirit for its living accomplishments, and neither the eye nor the ear is capable of any bliss on its own. But surely the spirit through the eyes and the ears, just like it is with other sense organs. So, when it says the following in the text, "Blessed are your eyes, because they see, and your ears, because they hear," according to the worldly understanding, something contradictory has just been said. Now we want to see if it is the same with this matter. The common, a little better worldly Christian understands it this way, that only the eyes and ears that have seen and heard me during my life on earth were blessed, and it is said that this is only a little nicer phrase, in which one puts the sign instead of the matter, parts of a whole, for the entire man, or as the rhetorical ones would express it more scholarly, signum pro re, pars pro toto. But it basically still would say as much as, "Blessed are the ones who have personally seen and heard me." Isn't this the correct explanation? And as an annotation, out of the mouth of the better worldly Christians? That's for sure, but I have to mention that neither I myself nor the named evangelist have ever studied rhetoric, and that we neither took any synecdoche, changing of part and whole into consideration, nor any kind of syllogisms, jumping to reasonable conclusions. Our figure of speech had the only name, inner divine spiritual truth, and according to this figure of speech, which appears in my rhetoric, our current text does neither belong to any synecdoche nor to a kind of syllogism. It is also not a paraphrase, as well as not a prologue and epilogue. Instead, like I said, it is a pure, innermost, divine spiritual truth. And it consists of the following. All men usually have a great fear from the fleshly death. The reason for this is that they are worldly, and therefore cannot see any spiritual thing, and they are also not able to hear that which would be a living lesson for their spirit. This text contains a heavenly doxology for those who have brought it so far with their true loving life, that the world with its night fell from their eyes like a heavy cover, and that their spiritual ears were opened, so that they hear my paternal voice, which says as much as, Happy are those who are born again in the Spirit. And this statement does not concern the outward meaning regarding the ones who were my comrades during my time, but actually includes every man who has ever lived on earth and ever will live, just like it includes all the inhabitants of all the other worlds. Because everything has to be regenerated spiritually before it can enter the spiritual, and as a consequence, the eternally living and truthfully blissful. Here, the eyes represent the recognizing of the divine truth, and the ears represent the absorbing of such, and to act accordingly. And it means as much as, blessed is the man in his spiritual understanding, so that he may recognize the divine truth completely, and he will be truly blessed if he implements the divine truth in his life and acts accordingly. Only then he will achieve the spiritual rebirth, and as a consequence of this, he will never ever see, feel, and taste death. That is the actual meaning of this text. This text would be applied deviously for those who search for the light by reading as much as they can with their eyes, or for the ones who, if they can't even read, but nevertheless listen to a lot of sermons, Christian doctrines, and confession manuals, for they are coming out of the sermon exactly the same way as they went in. Yes, many people already forgot most of the sermon the second they step out of the prayer house, and during many sermons, the ears of the listeners are everything else but blessed, especially if the preacher does not have a lot of brotherly love, and conveys the hell as hot as possible, and the path to heaven extremely narrow, steep, and thorny, that at the end the listener's choice will be difficult regarding which path should be chosen to walk on, and they think, hell might be hot, but the path going there seems to be much more comfortable. Heaven might provide the greatest bliss, but who would ever want to go there if it is only attainable on an almost impossible ascendable path? Well, the ears of those may definitely not be the most blessed ones, just as little as the eyes of the scholars, who indeed see a lot, but whatever they would like to see the most, they can never catch sight of. That is why only those who strive for the spiritual rebirth are blessed and attain it steadily more and more. But nobody will be reborn all at once, but rather step by step. But the act of rebirth does not begin for anyone until he has started to recognize the divine truth. And no one will be completely reborn and reach the inner view and hearing of the living word until he bans the world, which actually means the sin, freely out of himself. And only then the quoted text comes into play in its pure and heavenly light. And only then are the eyes blessed that see and the ears that hear. I mean, this text is again portrayed very clearly. Therefore, strive for the realization of it within yourself as well. Amen.